everybody. I'm Janet at McLean and Company, and I'm here with Dr. John Boudreau, Senior Research Scientist and Professor at University of Southern California Marshall School of Business. He's also the author of this great book, Work Without Jobs, How to Reboot Your Organization's Work Operating Model. So Dr. Boudreau, first, I'm super excited that you're here with us, and thanks for joining us. And most of all, thanks for contributing to McLean's research on internal talent marketplace, the topic of today's call. And before I dive in, I just want to provide our audience with McLean's definition of internal talent marketplace, because there's a couple floating out around there. So we all know what we're talking about. So at McLean, we define the internal talent marketplace as a tech-enabled platform that uses artificial intelligence to kind of match people to opportunities based on their skills, their interests, their aspirations. So those opportunities can include things like internal gigs, like project work, full-time roles, mentorships, learning experience, just about anything, depending on how you can configure a system. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's dive in. I'll stop talking. Dr. Boudreau, I know we talked a lot in an interview for the research previously, and I'm just hoping you can maybe give us some thoughts and insights on how a talent marketplace approach can be used as, the step towards deconstructing jobs and what that really means.
Thanks, Janet, and thanks for the opportunity to join you today. It's a real privilege, and I enjoyed contributing to your research. These internal talent marketplaces are really very interesting. In the book, Work Without Jobs, Robin and I wrote about some of these issues, and the title doesn't mean that we're going to have a world where all work is outside of jobs. But what it means is that it's becoming increasingly helpful to think about work as melted or freed from the assumption that it has to occur in a regular full-time job. So the idea would be to take a job, look at what's inside that job, what are the parts of it, and then let them melt and take a look at the parts and ask, how might we get that work done? Sometimes the answer is, yeah, we should put it back together in a regular full-time job, but sometimes not. In the same way, if we think about workers, we often think about them as existing in a job as a job holder. So work is measured as job, workers are measured as job holders. And in the same way, workers have a whole array of capabilities, and being able to see those capabilities as melted or deconstructed, and then the capabilities individually might match up with a gig or a project that was a part of a job. So the internal talent marketplace is a terrific opportunity for organizations to experiment with this. And I think what it does is, while you can post a job, very often leaders will take a job apart, and instead of asking for a job requisition, they'll look at that job as projects or gigs, and they'll post the project or the gig. That allows workers throughout the organization to see the work as a project, and then to think about their own capabilities as melted or deconstructed. Very often they'll have a capability that isn't used in their job, or that maybe someone doesn't know they have. They can choose a project to showcase or develop that capability. So the internal talent marketplace is a wonderful initial technology to begin thinking about this broader issue that Robin and I have written about in the book, where we think about work as the deconstructed elements that might go into a job, workers as deconstructed and really their full array of capabilities, not just the ones they're using on a job or a series of jobs, and we allow workers to flow those capabilities to the work that is now deconstructed.
Great. That's some great information. And I love that analogy on melting, because it speaks to that it happens over time, right? It's not such a radical shift. So I'm going to use that in the future. Wrapping up, what's one thing you would say to organizations just getting started in an internal talent marketplace approach?
So I think probably the best quote, Janet, that I can use for that is one by William Gibson, that it says, "The future is here, it's just unevenly distributed." And I think that with internal talent marketplaces, as with so many technologies that begin to capitalize and begin to experiment with this idea of work without jobs, it's good to apply them where there's already energy. You don't have to distribute the future everywhere in your organization. There are certain places where traditional jobs, traditional job holders, et cetera, are going to be the best way to approach work for a variety of reasons. However, as I said, there's an increasing number of places where the signals will tell you that you need something new. No one is going to come to you, at least until the book gets read by a lot more people. No one is coming to HR and saying, I need that new work operating system that Robin and John wrote about. Perhaps in the future, I hope. For now, what you get is, I can't seem to fill these job requisitions. We just can't seem to find people whose full array of skills match exactly my job. Well, that's an opportunity to say, perhaps if we freed you from thinking only of this work as a job, maybe we could reconstruct the work to better fit the kinds of people that are available. Same thing with automation. I'm trying to automate. The automation was sold to us by saying that it would replace a certain number of FTEs, and that's the payoff function for buying this automation. And yet when I do it, I can't redeploy those people. I need them to work with the automation. That's another signal of, well, if we freed this work from thinking about it as a job that must be fully replaced by automation, and we allowed it to be the human and the automation working together at the task level, would that help us work through this dilemma? In a lot of organizations, a good example is a change in priorities like sustainability, diversity, equity, and belonging. Those can often be, well, it's everyone's job, which of course can sound really no one's job specifically. But Unilever and others have got great case studies where, say, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging folks began to post projects. And people with a passion for that idea took on the projects. And so that's again a signal when we have something like, well, we need to make progress on these things. And we say it's everyone's job, but that's not really getting the work done. That's a signal to HR to maybe say, hey, maybe we do need something like a new work operating system that allows more of a melting, that allows more of a reconfiguration.
I like that. I love that. Well, thanks again for joining us and sharing what you're doing, what you're talking about, what you're writing about. Such an interesting topic. And again, thanks for contributing to the research on internal talent marketplace.
Thank you, Janet. Thanks everyone at McLean and Company as well.